welcome to people who are watching. I'm Gabby. I go by Murphy K in the music realm. Everybody else introduce yourselves. I don't feel awkward doing that. Shane, go first.
My name is Shane Olivo. I record all the people of Meltwater Pulse when they're not recording themselves because it's quarantine. I also have a studio called Shane Olivo Audio. It's not just a clever name. There's no ceiling right now. So that's what it looks like. I play bass and sometimes guitar. I used to write songs under my band name was The New Loud. Now I'm old. Next up, Jana.
I'm Jana Gordon. I go by Janelyn Rose, artist name. I am kind of new to the world of published music, but I've been playing and studying music like my whole life since I was 7. I have a master's in composition and in media writing and production. And I've been collaborating a lot in the last year on other people's things, and I'm starting to release music myself. That's my background.
Leaves Brett.
Yo, I'm Brett Banka. I'm going to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is that I'm wearing a blanket on my head. I do this for many meetings. I wear this since winter started and quarantine has happened. It's just my natural form of clothing. But so yeah, I've recorded music for 10 years now with Shane. I record music now as Brett JB, and it's always been a hobby, but Meltwater Pulse is kind of making it more of a regular part of my life and something I take more serious now because we go through these rounds of critiques. And I play guitar, I sing, and I do a lot of electronic stuff. So that's who I am.
Cool. We sort of came together, was it like 2017-ish? What is this?
Yeah, it was November of 2017. Yep.
And me and my former bandmate were recording an EP at Shane's old studio. At the same time, Brett was recording something. I don't know what it was, song or something. And I guess I'll let Shane explain how the idea came to him at that point.
So Gabby and Mark J. Soriano, who also shows up in Meltwater Pulse occasionally, either playing drums or with his own songs, were in a band called Akko, and they were recording at my studio. At the same time, Brett was recording some songs at the studio, and my idea for the whole group came from a lot of different elements, all kind of from different angles at the same time. But one of the things that I noticed was Gabby and Mark were younger, 21-ish, I think at the time. Brett was in his late 20s. And I noticed that Akko in general had these great songs, and they had this kind of uniform kind of feeling and identity to the music, where Brett was kind of struggling with his artist identity in general. But Brett was really excellent at coming up with details. He was more detail-oriented than Akko was. And it became like chocolate peanut butter thing. It's like, oh, what if we could take the peanut butter of Akko and mix it with the chocolate of Brett Banka?
Okay, but I feel like I was a big part of forming this too, because
You weren't.
Heartlight, and we had met back in May.
Yeah, I'm talking about November of 2017, and I met you in May of 2018.
Oh, gotcha.
So, this is where it all started. Was that, and yeah. But so if we want to talk about where Jana comes into the group, then I met Jana in April or May of 2018. And I had added Holden Lawrence to the group, who kind of still plays like an unofficial role in terms of kind of, how do you say, kind of consultant or something on songwriting. And I felt like Jana was, she filled a role in that her ear, and he comes from a more like studied music background, where Akko and Brett, I don't think, have as much technical music knowledge as Jana did. And Jana's ear is probably one of the best ears in the group in terms of hearing pitch and identifying things from like.
I'd say she's top 4 for sure, but
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, okay, sure. Anyway.
Maybe top 5. I don't know. Keep going, Shane. Sorry to interrupt.
No, if someone doesn't interrupt me, this is just going to take forever. So, like, someone else say like what they someone interrupt me.
Well, I'm going to interrupt quick. I just talked about, I think, the first
side pony.
It'll never be a side pony, no matter how many times you chant it.
Yeah. That, I love it.
Is this what you wanted?
That's what I wanted, Brett.
Yeah. That's how I get all the guys. But so I think the first like collaboration, I had this song called Heartlight that I've been working on with Shane for like 5 years. Now at that point it was probably like 3 years, but like I had it went through all these different instrumentation versions, where I was like, oh, maybe it's a rock song. I'm like, oh, maybe it's like a piano song. And I remember like it went through a phase where Shane said it sounded like bad Elton John, where I was like,
you actually hired a keyboardist, right, to come up with something for you?
Yeah. No, I came up with like the part, but it was like a MIDI. I wrote it on MIDI, and it sounded like it was written on MIDI. But then it also was played on a grand piano, which was like just didn't lend itself. And like that was the interesting learning experience, because it's like you really need to be Adele, or it sounded like I was trying to be Adele or Elton John, but I just didn't have those like vocal chops. It sounded pretty bad. So then Shane was like, oh, like I don't like this girl, and she can like, you should like give her the part and just see like, I don't know what happens. And then so that was Jana, and then she did this cool part that was on like the Rhodes, and it sounded a lot more natural and fit for the song, and it just worked out. And then I finally released that song not a ton later. So that was like the first collaboration, and then we started doing things more as a group after that, and everyone's now played on everyone's songs.
Another big factor in the forming of this is I watched this documentary on My Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West, and about how that got made. And they talked about how he rented out the studio in Hawaii, and the studio had 4 studios in it, A, B, C, and D. And everyone showed up to the studio at a certain time and worked. And he had different producers in every studio, and he would just walk around to each studio and kind of like give his feedback on what was happening, and he would get feedback from the people in the rooms. And I thought, this is a great idea. Like, what, how can we have multiple kind of producers working on the same songs, because I felt like when I was in the New Loud writing songs, it was just me and my band. And my band didn't really have a lot of say in the songwriting process. They didn't really have a lot of opinions. It was me, Jesse played keyboard and Tim played drums. And I felt like having multiple people come up with ideas was like a really great idea. It's kind of like the sum is better than the parts. And at the same time, I was having conversations with my Tai Chi teacher who shows up in Meltwater Pulse and gives us some kind of guidance every once in a while too in the marketing realm. And he had this concept that basically any two or more smart humans can kind of out-genius any genius status humans if they're working together as a small group.
Jenny, you are muted.
Thank you. If they're on the same wavelength, it's kind of a mastermind type group effort. And so I think we all kind of identify with that within the group, partially because we have these meetings twice a week, and partially because we constantly critique each other and collaborate. So I think the more we go and the more songs that we work on together, the more that kind of hive mind is established and honed in.
And I think like part of it is also like anti-hive mind. Like it's important to learn how to deal with pushback and know when people are, you know, to keep in your mind that if you have a group of people who are genuinely looking out for your best interests, that most of the time their suggestions are in good faith, and then you can sort of decide for yourself, you know, if you really are very determined to make a certain decision about your music, then you can go ahead with that. But I don't know, it gives you more faith in the process, I guess, to know that the people who are disagreeing with you are also looking out for your best interests.
Can I tell a side tangent story about the idea, which is like the mastermind kind of thing?
We'll allow it.
So it's like, it's not like Shane, when Shane was like talking about it, he's like, oh, like multiple people can get stuff done better than one person. And it's like, it sounds really dumb and easy. And like, oh, of course that's the case. And like, why wouldn't anyone not want to do that, you know? But it's like, just trust me on this story. It's going to make sense at the end eventually. But I remember being like probably 4 years old, and like my mom was like, she said we're going to get shots. And I didn't like know what shots were. I just liked the word. I was like, shots. Yes, shots. And I remember like jumping off the porch and just being super hyped. And she was probably, at the time, she probably was like, all right, this gets weird. But I was super excited. And then I got there and I realized what they were. And it was like the worst day ever. And I got my shot and I cried. And I hated shots.
Did you mean like medical shots or like shots from the bar? Because, I mean, you are from South Milwaukee, right?
Fair question. No, they were definitely medical shots.
Okay.
But then that reminded me of like, I feel like there could be a similar reaction with artists joining this group. Like, hey, here's the thing. We're going to like, you're going to have a bunch of people help you on your song. You're like, yes, you're going to jump off the porch. It's going to be super cool.
Then we slowly kill your musical soul.
I'm not going to lie. Yeah, there's still times where like I go to this thing that I was hype on and I'm like, oh, fuck, it hurts. And like, I don't know. It's
I think like you said that one time, Brett had said that like anything less than your song is amazing, it should be number one on the Billboard charts, is going to be like devastating and crushing.
Yeah,
I definitely feel that.
It's a constant ego check for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So beware, all you people out there, like, oh, this sounds really nice. Like it is nice, but I'd say it's like more, it was unexpectedly like humbling.
I think it requires like a certain level of maturity to recognize when people are checking you because they care versus when people are checking you because they're an asshole.
Yeah,
And what do you?
you need to be open-minded, and we've all gone through that kind of resistance of not wanting to change what we think is like our golden thoughts come to fruition. They're not always golden.
And not only is it the artist's ego there that's getting checked, it's also the critiquer's ego that's constantly getting checked. At least that's how I feel, because I'm not creating as many songs these days, but I am contributing a lot to critiques. And so as I'm critiquing someone, I'm also trying to think of better ways that I can accomplish saying what I'm saying without either being too harsh or unnecessarily hurting the person's feelings.
Or too vague. I mean, we've dealt with having issues with people's songs too, but really having to tackle solutions to the things that we find. And that's been a learning process as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a delicate balance.
The worst critique is probably like, I don't know, just something doesn't feel right about it. Like if anyone gives me that critique, I'm gonna be mad either way.
Tell me what's wrong with it.
Yeah, like, but that's the worst one, and that's something like that's a privilege reserved for just music listeners. Like if you're in the creative business, I'm saying business, but I don't mean like money wise. If you're in the creative business and like that's not a good enough critique. Like it's just rude. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't have a feeling. Like, shut up. Like then just be quiet. Like,
I mean, like if you can't articulate, I guess like if you're talking about like professional critiques, like if you can't articulate exactly what about a recording is bad, then I don't think that you should really have a place being a critical voice, because that's your whole job, bud. That's, I don't know. That's like, I could go on a whole diatribe about that, but we're all good because we all respect each other here. But I think like, yeah, one of the things about the group is just like learning and growing together. And, like it takes practice, and that's why I'm glad that we have started to do like twice a week meetings, even though it's like, it can feel grueling sometimes, but I think it keeps me on track. And I don't know, it's like playing an instrument. Giving and getting critiques is something that you need to practice.
Yes.
Another thing we spend time on is not only kind of taking apart a song to find out where the problems lie, but looking at some popular music, some of it which maybe we don't understand why it's popular. We rely on Pitchfork for some, just as kind of like a weather test of what's kind of cool these days. But all aside from our own tastes, that is. But there's this a few weeks ago. There's this Waxahachie song called "Fire," I think it's called, where seems like a lot of people are liking the song, and I don't know. I think it's like Brett that brought it to the group because he couldn't figure out what. He just wasn't feeling the song. He wasn't feeling the vibe of the song. Parts of the performance didn't like. He couldn't kind of make sense of it. And so part of a flip side of the critique for our own process is where we listen to other artists' material and sometimes try to find what people like about it, right?
Yeah. Like with that song in particular, I didn't mind it as much. There is a person who is my wife, who's in this house. And I'm always like showing her stuff like from Pitchfork, because she doesn't think about it from a songwriter perspective. And like I showed her the Waxahachie song, and she was just like, "Turn it off." And I had a negative reaction to it. It wasn't as extreme as that, but the lead vocal line right from the beginning is like pretty, I would call it nasally, and I would call it a little flat. And it's how it is in the mix. It sits like right in your face in the mix, you know? So you turn it on and it's like, "That's what I wanted." And I was like, holy shit, to me this sounds like abrasive. And I assumed that I was like, oh man, I'm getting old. I'm losing touch with the kids. I can't understand why this is cool. And so that's why we talked about it with the group. And I don't know, did we ever figure out why it's cool to a lot of people?
I think we touched on the emotional.
I just got a text from Mary that said no, because she heard me.
Mary is a great instinctual critic, I think, that we can kind of use outside of Meltwater Pulse. She's one of those that hasn't had a music background, but she really she's a good gauge of a lot of songs in general, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like, we can reach outside of our like inner circle as well. And that's like sort of part of the structure of the group, is that there's sort of the main core people who meet every week. And then there are people that we can sort of reference as needed, and, you know, always be looking for different perspectives on our songs and other songs and stuff like that.
I think just to put a little bit of a bow on the Waxahachie subject for anyone like listening and wondering, I think we did kind of decide that because, you know, auto-tune and perfect vocals are now just like the standard sound in all types of music, even indie music. Like this probably, it was on pitch enough, and it was out of pitch enough to be like, to hit that sweet spot where it was good to a lot of people, but also like interesting. Like I think people, like when I heard it, I'm like, this is off pitch. I think a lot of people heard it and was like, this was interesting. I think that's what we kind of came up with.
It's kind of similar to like mid 90s emo stuff, like where the early emo stuff and a lot of kind of more indie emo nowadays kind of goes back to that, where it was not about pitch as much, and I think maybe that's what's happening with that song. Also, when I remember, I don't know how you listened to it or how Mary listened to it the first time, where you guys were repulsed. But I remember when you first played it for me, you played it on your iPhone, just like on the iPhone speaker, and that was very not complimentary of the mix. So her kind of nasally vocal, like the iPhone speaker, really accentuated it, and totally, yes, Meltwater repulsed. And it made it way louder than when I went back and listened to the song again with nice headphones.
Yeah, the iPhone speakers tend to get a little bit like tinny and compressed. So you really only get like the most piercing elements of a song, and in that case, it was definitely like the vocals. Yeah, I don't know. Any other like suggestions?
Use your words.
No, I refuse. Why can't you just read my mind? It's not that bad. It's not that hard.
Better charade.
No, thank you. And okay, so here's what I was going to ask, and it was: is there anything else that if you were listening to us talking right now, you would be like, "Well, I don't quite get that. Why are they doing this? Why are we doing this?" I think to make our music better, for me, it's a chance to grow my audience and create better music to connect with more people. That would be my official answer. with like
Yeah, let's
less
go around.
vocal fry.
Jenna, why are you in the group?
Same.
Samesies?
First of all, that's plagiarism, but okay.
I'm going. I have a very classically trained background. I've grown up in a string quartet and playing viola in Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra and playing piano from the age of 7. But I've never been in a band. I have never experimented with electronic music or beats, really. But I really want to progress my music and hopefully become a little bit more part of pop culture, or at least touch on that style. So this group has been incredibly helpful in allowing me to kind of bridge that gap between my musical abilities and having the resources to kind of fill in what I don't know. And I think that is a role that I've played for everyone else's music too. And that's another reason that I really like being in the group, is because of these collaboration opportunities. It kind of shows me what I can do in other people's music, and it's helped boost my confidence in my own music. So I think those are the most important elements of being in Meltwater Pulse to me, are both the opportunity to collaborate and allowing collaborations to happen on my own music to elevate it to a point that I never would have gotten to with it on my own.
Good. Brett.
Yeah, I mean, samesies, guys. But no, I just wanna write better songs, bro, and have them travel outside my Facebook circle and hopefully be appreciated on their own like merits. Because that's being from Milwaukee too. It's like we are. I feel like in some ways trapped by how small Milwaukee is, but also you get like you could get a false sense of like confidence too from it, because it's a tight knit city as far as big cities go, and everyone knows everyone. So if your song is like doing well, like I have had a couple songs on 88.9, which is super awesome. But it still feels like, oh, they're just doing that because like I'm from Milwaukee and like, you know, you're getting thrown a bone, and I really want to be able to have a song that can stand on its own like anywhere. So that's kind of the more specific version of why I want to get better.
Nice.
I would say the why. When I was a songwriter, like I said before, I didn't have a lot of people. I didn't have a group like this. And when you're just releasing your songs, I feel like without critique that's thought out by people that you can trust, that you feel are your peers, the progress of you as yourself is very incremental, very slow. And there's nothing kind of saying when you pick a new direction or lean into a new direction that direction suits you or it even works out. And so I think having kind of, as Jenna called it, like a mastermind group, it makes it so people's journey as an artist is less like groping in the dark, to quote an Eric Blowtorch song. But yeah, so I think you kind of progress further in your art.
And faster.
Yeah, I think like just me personally, I know like each song feels like 10. I would have needed to do 10 songs on my own, you know, grabbing in the dark or whatever to make the progress that I can with one song now, just going through the group and doing a couple of demos of it. So I agree totally with that statement, Shane.
Dope, dope, dope. Anyone else? Last remarks? Speak now or forever hold your pee.
I am holding my pee.
Shane.
No, I would just say, if you, we can say this now. Maybe we should put this in the beginning. If you are a music critic of some type of regular practice, or an artist who's interested, I think you should totally reach out to us, and we would, like to interact with you in some way. I think we talked about having guests come on and do guest critiques and stuff. But yeah, talk to us. See if we're just sounding delusional. Let us know if we're sounding, accurate or cool or just insane.
Follow us on social media. We do post dank memes on Insta, so. I think it's at Meltwater Pulse Co. CO. Right? On Instagram.
Yes.
And don't follow our Twitter. We don't tweet. We're not good at it.
I tweet to Instagram.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, cool. Dope. If I fucked up that recording, I'm going to be mad.
Did you stop it?
Good.
I'm stopping it now.
Can I pee?
Yeah.